right. That's what you all say. So,
Unplug the modem.
Yeah. Well, I just removed the channel and the Periscope and put it back on. Okay, but I think we might be on now. Okay. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Oops. No. Okay. It didn't go anyway because I didn't do Facebook Live. All right. All right, there we go. So we're on just YouTube and Twitter. So, okay, are you posting it in the YouTube, Brian? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So we haven't done that. We haven't done that in a while. I think our trolls are gone, and hardly anybody watches. What do we have? I have like 63 subscribers.
You want me to post the Zoom link?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I can do that.
So I've been online a lot this week, talking and recorded interviews. Oh, the humidity. So this is really just going to be whatever, free for all. So anybody watching, the Zoom link is up. If you want to come in and pick your topic, feel free to steer the conversation. I don't know. I've been really feeling in need of like humor and some other topic other than the usual things, you know. But yeah, I had this great chat online with a guy named Dave, who, if you're watching this, please check out Dave's channel. It's called Save America, Vote Tulsi Gabbard. And he is a former Republican who voted for Trump. He's no longer for Trump. He said it was simply an anti-establishment vote, which is kind of what I've been saying for quite a while now, that I think there are a lot of people like Dave out there. And anyway, he just does a great job all on his own. It's just him, his analysis, and his channel's grown like really fast, and he's got a lot of viewers. And I think it's really cool because while I'm sure some of this is cult of personality, people like Tulsi Gabbard, and I hope we can get away from some of that eventually. But it's also, it is her platform that is resonating with people on all sides, independent, left-leaning, right-leaning, veterans, like you said, Brian. And so Dave is really speaking to those people. And he's kind of new to the progressive media, so that's been a little bumpy for him. But anyway, we had a really great talk, about an hour, and he is willing to bring up the subject about the DNC rules and how that might, thwart Tulsi's run. But we had a talk about focusing on the platform and her issues and how people are responding to that, and how going forward maybe it can be, call it Gabbard's platform or whatever, and have candidates come to that, like that's how it should work. Not that the candidate should be loyal to a party, and anyway. So. And then we talked to Elizabeth Beck, the DNC fraud lawsuit attorney.
That was a good conversation.
That was very good. We haven't edited that yet. We talked again, an hour probably. So
about an hour and a half.
Yeah, so we need to edit that a bit. It was all great, but we didn't go live with that one. And Tuesday I'll be going over the DNC rules more clearly, hopefully. But yeah, the DNC pledge is interesting. Basically says the candidate will uphold the faithfully uphold the interests, welfare, and success of the Democratic Party, and that the meaning of that is up to Tom Perez. And it's up to Tom Perez to decide whether or not each candidate did that, or they can just be out.
Tom Perez has set himself up as the kingmaker.
Yeah.
He alone will get to choose who gets to stay on the Democratic Party ballot and who has to leave. He alone gets to choose that. That's real democratic. Nice.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking at Tulsi's page to see what her top issues are. She's concerned about coral reefs in the ocean, so that's good. That's one of the ones.
That's important.
All of it is really spot on. I mean, there are a couple things people with the drone.
I do not care for her support for drones. I really don't.
Yeah.
For drones?
Drones. She has no problems with the military using drones.
In an offensive manner or in a intelligence and like surveillance?
As we're using them now, she has no problem with it.
You know, in a war zone or just in non-conflict areas?
No, in combat as well.
Your feelings are that you don't approve of that?
No, my feeling is this. I served in the Navy, and I've actually got to talk to a couple of people who used to do that. And they come away damaged, in my view. They're not the same. That particular part of the service has a very high turnover rate, and it's because of the psychological trauma that these people have to endure in order to do their jobs. It's tantamount to turning a war zone into a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, I've met actually out here at Air Weapons Station China Lake.
Yep. That's where I was stationed too. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They do have some side effects. Yeah, some effect. Major effect. Yeah. So it's mostly your opposition on the detrimental impact on the operator.
That and again the fact that we're turning war into a video game.
Yeah.
I really have I have a problem.
Yeah, I can see your perspective on that. Yeah. Because it dehumanizes it. It takes.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
We should send this to. Where are they? Oh, there we go.
She's got a lot of stuff on her webpage.
Yeah.
Medicare for all, net neutrality. Net neutrality is kind of a hard one. I mean, I could see it and would support it, but at the same time, a lot of companies have made a lot of investments. I, for one, would like to divide the internet and make half of it net neutral and the other half completely capitalistic. You know, whatever is popular can get a lion's share, you know, through. So let me see what she stands on that.
Well, the issue I have with going away from net neutrality is because here's the problem, in my view, is that I think the major internet companies, Comcast, Cox, Charter, I think these companies would love to turn it into kind of use their same cable network model for the internet. In other words, turn them into individual channels that you have to pay to get access to. And I think that could be really, really dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. Like I said, I could see giving a greater slice of bandwidth to applications that are popular, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to do it to the detriment of the up and coming.
Right.
And, so there'd have to be some kind of compromise between the two. It wouldn't hurt to be net neutral. It would just, but there is a lot of infrastructure that a lot of people have invested in it. And it kind of stepping in and grabbing a piece of their business and
Right.
dictating use. It's a touchy situation. I see
Well, here's the other problem, though. The 96 Telecom Act, we were taxed. I mean, there was a lot of money tied to that bill that was supposed to be used to get us basically a coast-to-coast fiber optic network. Where the hell is that? That was part of that 96 Telecom Act.
I remember that, like in around 2000. I was in Asheville, North Carolina, and there was a lot of talk about that it wasn't going to happen there because of the mountains and it being so rural. But yeah, that was a big topic all the time, and then it just
was part of that 96 Telecom Act. We were supposed to get a coast-to-coast fiber optic network that we still today do not have.
I didn't know about the act, but I knew a lot of fiber got pulled. I was doing work for Exceed as they were rolling fiber through Texas. But maybe it just got privatized then.
So,
well, part of the problem with the 96 Telecom Act is it allowed corporations to basically buy each other out, so that now we have 5 companies that control our news at this point.
Well, isn't that the problem in every industry? I mean, this is just the problem in America. It's all, whether it's media or health insurance or whatever it is.
Capitalism is the problem because it will always seek to deregulate itself. It's the most nefarious thing about capitalism is that no matter what regulations you put on it, it will always seek to find some way around them or to reduce them.
Yeah, but if we have tighter...
Right, that's part of the nature of capitalism.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of the nature of it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to increase profits. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we can regulate it properly? Is that possible?
I think it can be, but again, the problem we run into is that we are in a capitalistic system. So at some point,
they're always looking for a way.
Push to deregulate. There's always going to be a drive to deregulate.
Mm-hmm. It's just interesting.
Just like with any industry, there's going to be a push to deregulate.
Yeah. Well, it's just sometimes I feel like, I mean, I'm definitely for democratic socialism, but, sometimes I feel like maybe I don't have a good enough understanding of what straight up socialism is. And I'll tell you what got me thinking about this. Last week I had to take an Uber down to pick up my car, and it was being worked on, and my driver was from Venezuela, and he was 22, and so I started asking him some questions, and what do you think of what's going on down there? What's your opinion of Maduro? What's life like there? And I told him about Max Blumenthal's, how he was there and showed there's food, there's oh, hello, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Occasionally. And it was interesting. I mean, this guy was young, and I don't know what media he's been exposed to, or what his personal experience was. But he was like, no, most people, he said, I would say 80% of people welcome the U.S. coming in because we don't like what our government's doing. And he said it all started going wrong with Chavez. So that was his opinion. Again, he was 22 years old, but he had only been here for a month, and he was like shipping not only food but bottles of water. Imagine how expensive that is, right? To his family. And he said out of like 10 boxes he would send, and his English was really good, but he had to guess he meant customs, but out of 10 boxes he would send, only 2 of them would make it through customs and actually reach his family. But he's sending them water. And so I said, well, what about this, this coverage this journalist did saying, oh, look at the market, there's food here, there's not all empty shelves and all this stuff you hear. And he said, that's really very, only in the city, like a couple, I think he said 5%. Now, I don't know how accurate all this was, but he just got here like a month ago. And he said, yeah, I was out at a bar and some American guy, says to me, I'm so sorry what our country is doing, coming in and butting in your country's business and, removing your elected. And he's like, what is this guy talking about? He had no idea what he's talking about. So it was just really interesting to hear this other side of like, no, we want the U.S. in there. And I thought, well, who knows? I mean, maybe he's consuming mainstream media there, and I don't know, but
Could be.
I
That's
don't
interesting.
want to discount his. I mean,
It's
that's his
true.
first-hand account. That's his life, his family, and
It's very interesting.
yeah,
It may depend on how or what part of the what part of the country they're from.
hang on.
And whether,
I know if I see a map, I can remember the name.
well, what I meant was I'd like to see samples from the poor areas, the richer areas, and from the white areas, the Indian areas.
See, because when I took economics in Germany, we studied Venezuela for a time, and we studied in particular the transition between I can't remember the name of it, but the guy who was in charge before Chavez, and studying basically the economic differences. And when Chavez came in, one of the first things he did was he nationalized the oil and basically turned over a good portion of the profits from the oil over to the people by instituting nationalized health care and a number of other social programs that really helped to, statistically at least, really helped to improve conditions there in Venezuela. So
I don't know. I mean, he would have been born in what, 97? Is that right? Yeah, something like that. I mean, he was young, but that was his experience. And I think he said his parents, or one of his parents, I forget, was actually from Italy, and that they moved over whenever, I don't know when that would have been, the 70s, I think he said, and that it was just this amazingly, beautiful place, and there's all this opportunity back then. And the way he put it was like, yeah, Chavez came in and ruined it all. That was.
Wait a minute. There is one thing that Chavez did do that really upset a lot of people. That may be the sentiment that this guy's coming from. He took a lot of land from the wealthy.
Oh, well.
He took a lot of land from the wealthy and turned it over to ordinary citizens. He split up a lot of wealthy landowners' property. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's what he's.
Is it Caracas?
If the family was wealthy, that would explain it.
That's what I'm wondering. Okay, so it was Caracas. He was right near there. So that's the main city,
Caracas
right?
is the capital.
Right. Okay. So yeah, maybe that's true. He's
That's quite possible. He may have come from a wealthy family, and yet Chavez took a lot of land from the wealthy and turned it over to the people. There were a lot of people, a lot of wealthy people left the country when he did that.
Well,
also,
that was
a simple way to get a large crowd that's all in your favor is make sure that crowd comes from an area that is well stocked, is well taken care of, isn't seeing the problems that the others are, is isolated from it. And there might be some stores that are fully stocked. Yeah. And, I don't know because I'm not on the ground there. I actually don't think I even know anybody from Venezuela.
I don't think I do either. I don't know anybody from Venezuela.
It says this is from BBC. It says the discontent is hyperinflation, skyrocketing hyperinflation, power cuts, shortages of food and medicine. More than 3 million Venezuelans have left the country.
Well, a lot of that has to do with our economic involvement and the sanctions. We imposed sanctions on Chavez when he took power because we didn't like the fact that he wasn't playing our economic game.
Is it legal for us to cut power to their embassy internationally?
You know what? I don't think it is.
Did
I
we
would
do
be
that?
very surprised if that is legal. I would be very surprised.
We're not allowing water, food,
Yeah, I've read that.
electricity into their embassy.
I think that is illegal. I think that's against international law.
Wait, their embassy on U.S. soil?
Yes, their embassy in D.C. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the conversation was so interesting. I started to ask him if I could live stream while I was in the back seat, and I was like, oh, that might make him uncomfortable. And I thought maybe I should invite him to come on and talk. But the other thing he said that was fascinating was that basically it was only U.S. dollars that were any good, period. Oh, crap. I just realized my volume might be way louder than everybody else's. Sorry.
That happens in a lot of countries when we cut off every other option they have.
Well, right, but that was interesting because he was like, yeah, if you don't have U.S. dollars, forget it. It's worth, you have no buying power, period.
Interesting.
That's even true in countries we don't mess up.
Yes, it's.
You can learn a lot from your Uber driver. You never know.
That is interesting.
So, what else is new, guys? What have you been up to, Mitch?
Well, I've been trying to get around and see some candidates to get to see Bernie Sanders in a small venue on Sunday.
Okay.
Just like the Black Lives Matters, which started with a bunch of Hillary campaign staffers leading the Black Lives Matter run against Bernie, and they tried to do one like that, farmers against Bernie, at his farm speech he gave up in Osage, Iowa.
Okay.
And bunch of kids that did not waited somewhere all ran up and started yelling, "Save the farms!" and "Save the farms!" acting like Bernie was being the one that was anti-farmer.
And who's going to save the farms? Beto O'Rourke?
I'm guessing they were Beto O'Rourke. Who knows? They could have been
Just
Biden.
paid.
They could have been
Were they just like paid?
Obviously, and there were a whole big crowd that all they had kept doing was shouting, "Fight Big Ag, fight Big Ag," and Bernie's whole speech was fighting Big Ag. So obviously they were there counter to it.
We're screwed.
Yeah. So we had a whole bunch of candidates come. As soon as I come back to the state, they all fled. But
That's how you coming, Mitch.
yeah. And then there's others that I just didn't want to go to make it look like they had somebody want to show up to them. And I was going to go see Beto. He was playing in a small town in somebody's living room right by here. And I'll talk on Tuesday to some people and see how many people actually showed up. But I'm guessing 2 or 3.
Was Willie Nelson there this time?
I don't know. There was like room for 7 or 8 people to be there.
Oh.
And so I actually started cooking and I forgot to leave. But we have just an onslaught coming. The one who's not coming that I have wanted to see, Tulsi's not coming around.
To Iowa?
And, she came earlier in the year.
Oh, right.
But lately, she's not been coming, and I think that bodes bad. There, with the floods, almost all of the candidates had to come down and get their pictures by the floods in southwest Iowa.
Hmm.
And that's like the state's 300 miles wide, and so that's a long distance from here going diagonally across the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't want to drive that far.
Yeah, you just did a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And yeah, the campaigns have died down for a few weeks. There is a link. Maybe I should share the link to you people. I don't know if it means anything. Who's actually in the area and when. Yeah, nobody is planning on coming to Iowa next week, or at least to have shared the data. Now let me open my chat dialog. I placed the link where any Democratic candidate coming into the state, where they can log in and get their notice out that they're have an event coming up. So my guess is, with so many having been here in the last 3 weeks, they're all taking a break.
Mm.
And maybe they're waiting to see what next. Monday, we'll have the next aggregation of polls showing how the candidates are doing. Mm-hmm. And the way Real Clear Politics has been really messing with it. Not only are they not polling people less than 50 years old, they started adding Biden to the polls months ago. And so they show an average of the polls. So even when his polls start dipping down, they're still going to show high because they're showing for average from last month as well.
Ah, interesting.
And I do see more people saying you got to read the how we poll section of the polls to see how they go. And it's just unbelievable to me that the polls that are reporting Biden winning are not polling anyone under 50.
No, of course
I know. It's ridiculous.
They can't. If they start polling people under 50, it would be a serious case of the emperor's new clothes.
Yeah. Let's see if I can show.
I'll be right back.
That's really bad.
I have an image here. This is the Bernie from last week. Should be seeing a barn.
Yeah.
And then this was as the people filled in. The striking thing is, if you look in the crowd, how many of the people appear to be under 30?
Yeah.
These are old folks.
Majority.
Yeah. No.
Oh, wait.
Majority is old folks.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, they are older, aren't they?
Yeah. So I fit in with this crowd really well. The people in front of me are all reporters. The woman in the black hat, I believe, is NBC, and they all appeared to be pre-warned that the fake anti-ag people were going to be there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so immediately they all popped up and ran over to that instead of covering what was going on. The guy in the blue in the back left, all the way in the back, is not Bernie. It's from Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream.
Gotcha.
So I had that. I did have one other. I'm not sure if I saved it. I had somebody sent me from the crowd. Yeah, this is a good one. Let's see if I can get his private information out of here. Oops. Seventeen. There. This one doesn't have his email address on it. Can you see this crowd?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely older people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I appear to be amongst the youngers.
Yes.
So in Iowa, he is not appealing to only the younger set.
Good.
And that almost makes me think that with the amount of data that's available, the ability to use a relational database to deselect people that you don't want to appear in polls, data sets of people with their names and phone numbers, their affiliations, who they have voted for in the past, even who you've contributed to is now available to these pollsters.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that in order to get the results, they're not only polling only people over 50, they have to be specifically editing the poll selection pool to remove the people that are not for the candidates they want.
Why wouldn't they though?
Yeah.
I mean, what would prevent them from doing so? See, here's the thing: if the DNC already has a chosen candidate, then all they have to do is tell the pollsters, look, just make the data fit our narrative. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about being accurate. Just make the data fit our narrative.
But what's the motivation for the pollster then?
They're getting paid.
Getting paid, like anything else.
Root of all evil. Okay.
Right. As much as their error was in the last two elections, their jobs are on the line. They no longer have the confidence of the people to be able to, say their polls are correct. They're having to sell their polls to the people the polls are about, no longer to get the advertisers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're making the polls to create the sensational claims, not to present the accurate data.
Right. Right.
It's really bad. I mean, this is just straight out statistic manipulation, and
it's no different than what Nate Silver was doing by the end of the primary. It's no different at all.
No.
Effectively social engineering is what they're doing.
Nate Palmer, I think, was only limiting his to 30, not 50.
It's no different than what the mainstream media does with manufacturing consent. It's no different. Same concept.
Well, on the bright side, at least if they're having to go to that length to convince people, they don't have their hooks into the election infrastructure as deeply as I fear.
Yeah.
Otherwise, bother.
Right.
Unless
that is a good point.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe they're covering, putting the data out there before they manipulate the election.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we're coming up on 2020, and we were talking about fixing this for the 2000 midterm.
Right.
We're not. There's nothing's happening.
Right.
It's disheartening.
It is. Well, I see it this way. I can't remember who said this, but you can only ignore the people for so long before you incite a revolution.
Yeah.
I was looking to where I saw their
doing it.
polls. One of the major pollsters was using calling landlines and using Amazon Turk service. Is anyone familiar with Amazon Turk service?
Never heard of it.
This is for people who need money, need work, and you perform a task, and you perform it many times, and then they will pay you a piddly amount for it. And one of the poll services, I can't think which one, is using Amazon Turk to poll youth. So basically, you would say we need 100 Hillary voters or former Hillary voters to take a poll on the voting preferences, and then use that data.
Is that Amazon Mechanical Turk? Is that what it's referred to?
Yes, Amazon Mechanical Turk. You see it?
Yeah, I'm reading about it.
And that might be best for you to independently, without my help, look into see how the political strings are being pulled there.
Wow.
And I was looking into a recent poll.
Get paid for completing simple tasks.
So, not exactly what I call professional.
No. Yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, earlier they were talking about the DNC, the DNC rules, the 51%, and it was stated that possibly by having so many candidates, they're manipulating the rules in combination with these rules. The number of what are your thoughts about the number of candidates?
Yes,
That's
yes.
exactly what they're doing.
The diehards in this state for the primary, because we hold undue weight with our caucus, and in our group, the people that are more establishment, we're just completely happy when anybody that is anti Medicare that looked like they could possibly go up against Bernie just got full support, and then the next one would come out. They'd get full support. It's just been one right after the other. So I'll be interested to see, since I was gone last month, what happened since I've been gone. And but I went to the Amy Klobuchar. At this time, it's for me unethical that we even have a candidate in our group that is not for healthcare. That we had such avid following for Amy Klobuchar. And again, for Beto O'Rourke, immediately came up that, he'd raised $6 million. And there was no question of how or where. It was more that, well, they finally had enough money to go up against Bernie. You know, Biden has already fallen in 1 week from 44% to 27. Is that correct?
Really?
Well, I've made the decision that I'm not going to pay a damn bit of attention to any of this stuff with the Democratic primary. After I cover this thing on Tuesday about the DNC rules, I don't care. I'm not even going to invest any time into it until they determine the nominee. And then, but what I'm going to do instead is just, what we spent all of last year doing, which is focusing on the candidates across the country, the small grassroots candidates that,
and that is probably the best course of action to take.
Yeah, because I'm not going to invest.
We have a state rule for the Democratic Party that there can be no primaries against a sitting candidate.
Wow. Oh yeah, but you know what? Oh crap! I should really keep all these things.
They can file the paperwork; it just won't
go. I'm gonna have to dig through Twitter to find it. Wow. There was a woman who was running. Was it New Jersey? I'll find it in a minute. But she was running against, she was a challenger to a Democratic establishment candidate. And the DCCC came in, the rules that they have, like now, something about you can't have a consultant can't
the
work.
Consultants cannot work for a candidate who's taking on an incumbent.
Right. Thank you.
Otherwise, they're blackballed.
Thank you for finishing my thought there. But this one woman, so she posted about that this had happened, and she raised, again, I would rather see no money in it. Why the hell do we need money? Let's just use social media, or whatever. But so many people were ticked off about that, and that basically the oppression she was getting from the Democratic Party, that she raised a lot of money, something like, I don't know, $45,000 or something over a long weekend. So that was a good sign, because I think that shows that the public is like, wait, what?
People are getting pissed.
Yeah, how does that?
Yeah, I want to recap that. So you're saying if there's a sitting,
I'll find it.
If there's a sitting Democrat and someone decides to primary them, in other words, run against them as a Democrat, the consultant that is helping that candidate unseat the sitting incumbent is blackballed, can no longer work for the DNC.
And Mitch, did you say you can't even have a primary against a sitting one?
The local and the state, so I don't know what the state rules are in the other. The people that are in the local party cannot support a candidate that is going up against an incumbent. If you are a precinct cabinet or captain, or what do we call them here, you cannot endorse or support in any way an alternate candidate.
So they're tipping the scales towards the incumbent.
Oh yeah, of course they are. Because they don't want another AOC or who are the others? There were some others that won there. They don't want any progressives getting into office.
No,
this is an old practice.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Their response, not only have they been just digging in their heels since they lost to Trump, right? They're just going to fight tooth and nail to keep these progressive candidates down. That they don't care. They're not going to change. They're going to fake it and try to fool people that they're progressive, but that's it.
They're going to gaslight us as they normally do, but that's
right.
That's typical. We should be used to that by this point.
Yeah.
Basically, what I see it's going to happen is we are going to have challengers. I have already known a few people have come up to me about challenging some other incumbents, and basically the printing industry, the local printing industry, makes a lot of money off of printing things for the candidates, and it's done a lot by that. It's almost a mafia of printing. There's the group of printers that print for Republicans. There's a group of printers that print for Democrats. and you're required to spend 3/4 of your money you raise printing through them or using TV services through them. Services. So what's going to happen is the incumbent challengers are not sticking out. We had one person that had a powered skateboard. Didn't even get off the skateboard to come to the houses. But the people are just switching to Amazon or online services that don't ask. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see the local industries not get this money they're used to having and just go out of business.
Yep.
So the ones that stick with the incumbent only rule, they've got 2 to 4 years of being in business in their house. Because the internet prices on these things are just incredible.
Well, they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. These rules are harmful to people. And to the whole process. I mean, it's really thwarting.
Very undemocratic.
Re-election, yeah.
Very undemocratic.
And it comes along that we talk about the election and integrity of the ballot. The next thing we need to do is the election integrity of the information. The shows like this, the people being able to talk online, that has to get more popularized.
Yes.
People in Southwest Iowa cannot use this service.
They can't?
No broadband in Southwest Iowa. Only a few large towns have broadband. Everybody else has internet, but not even at speeds that we were used to in the early 2000s.
Wow.
The DSL lines that they can get might give them 400K of speed. And most of us now are used to at least talking about how many megs you have going down.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know what we need downward speed for this service. But I'm guessing less than 5 meg, you can't use this.
Yeah, because I'm 12 megasecond here.
I think you're probably about right there.
Right. So with these rural communities, at best, they're getting 400K. And some of them are actually getting 26K.
That is awful.
Wow. Could you imagine?
You can't do anything with that.
In 2 days, you can download a song that's an MP3.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So right now, Bernie announced that he is going for our national broadband.
It's awesome.
That is going to play well in Southwest Iowa.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And, I mean, here, I could swear I saw an internet connection out into an Amish farm yesterday.
Huh.
They don't have electrical wires going to their house. They had this little building out beside the road. And I believe we had a school buggy holding, I think, like 6 or 8 children going to school, drawn by horses, was hit by a semi-truck, killed all the kids.
Oh, jeez.
And I believe that they now have a service where they can go and connect to the internet and get their equivalent of an Uber. It's this white van that goes out, brings them in, takes them back to the store. So they're not riding their buggies in the semis anymore.
That's awful.
Jeez.
Okay, I found this. The woman, it was Marie Newman in Illinois. She's running as a Dem, obviously. But she was progressive, challenging Dan Lipinski. And so on Friday, she told Politico, what was this? Well, anyway, she told Politico that 4 consulting firms abandoned her in response to the DCCC's announcement in late March that it would not employ firms. that work with primary challengers, as you said. Um, Moments after the report was published, Democracy for America endorsed Newman's primary bid. Both DFA and the Progressive Change Campaign Committee solicited donations for her. And between Friday morning and Monday evening, whenever this was, sometime in April, her campaign raised almost $45,000.
Nice.
Yeah.
This could be what she needs to win this time. Yeah, I remember. I think she wasn't in my area when I was out there, and then I moved here in 20. I moved, right at the beginning of 2016 when I moved here. So I've been here too long. But I read something about that. I almost felt like going out there when it's time for door knocking to go out and help her.
Yeah, I just want to see the money get. I don't know.
We're
Maybe
not gonna
that's
get the
just
money
very.
out of politics for another 6 years.
I know. It just really, why do we need it? You can reach people without it. You can. I mean,
You can.
People are lazy.
That's true.
They want it pre-prepared for them. They want it fancy. If they're Fox viewers, they want to see women's legs.
Well, but, like you said, when you got stuff in the mail, the shiny little cards, it's like, why waste the money on this stuff? It's just stupid.
Yeah, and I've been saying, take a good GIF file and put it on your phone with a barcode and just show it to people.
Well,
to see the picture, this is the candidate I want to go for.
That's why I just messaged Chris Garu again about that we need to have a meeting again soon about our voice and Hello Voter, and they've done some amazing stuff with these apps, and we need to really crank that up for the CFAR and CWAC candidates so that they're on that system, and also see if we can't help Rich Stevenson get some of his stuff put onto that. He was going to join, but his brother fell, he said.
Oh, no.
So, I don't know, he said he was waiting for the ER squad. Hope he's okay.
Jimmy, you mentioned like a litmus issue, a healthcare care, you said. What healthcare? What are the top issues for people that attracts interest?
Jobs. There are just drying up. Now, the thing is, candidates, if they stop saying they want to make jobs, that would really help. If they start saying, I want people to do this, and be absolutely specific. Here, we have this big boundary. We have the equivalent of 25 million people living in Iowa sewage-wise. So we have the farmers saying, don't make any laws. I could go out and get you a picture of a 300-foot diameter tank, 40 feet tall of manure. It's just like 15 miles from here. And that is from one farm. That's the easiest picture to take. It's actually illegal to take pictures of manure tanks in Iowa.
Illegal?
Okay.
Illegal. You can't take a picture of a manure farm. A manure tank. But they're huge and it's a big problem. But the farmers, if they let it go into the rivers, they can get fined. The farmers want those fines removed because right now the farmers are being squeezed by what's called mono markets. In each area, there's only one place to sell your grain. They set the price.
Wow.
There's only one. Most of the people no longer own their own cattle and stuff that's out there. The pigs, 80% of the pigs in Iowa are owned by China. And they basically rent your facility to raise their pigs. And the amount they pay the farmers is, in many cases, not keeping up with the expenses of running the farm. And the farmers are going bankrupt like crazy. They are angry. They are very angry at everybody. And anybody that does something to help them, one thing we could do right away is we could get our candidates to say, we want to turn that manure into diesel fuel. Now, diesel fuel taken from the ground is a major ecological damage. Diesel fuel made from manure is a major ecological plus. It's a carbon neutral fuel at the start,
Right.
but it also doesn't eutrophy the Gulf Coast. So
That
that's
makes sense.
huge issue. So we have enough diesel fuel to fuel every truck and train going between the East Coast and the West Coast. We are the major nexus. Things going from Florida to Seattle go through Iowa. Things going from California to New York City go through Iowa. Things going from Dallas to Minneapolis go through Iowa. So if we were to make diesel fuel and put it on the trains and trucks and school buses, we actually could do an extreme environmental hit right there. Clean it up, at least take us to carbon neutral while we develop other technologies that are going to take 15 to 20 years. Immediately in 5 years have a farm or a carbon neutral right here, ready to drop in our trucks. If we can get the politicians to talk about that, it's no more of an effort than putting a man on the moon. Putting a man on the moon, we did not have the technology when we proposed it. Manure in the diesel fuel, we have the technology. And it is what scientists would say exothermic, meaning that we get energy out. We don't put energy in to make it.
So that's good. The local issue is of the highest.
Manure, water quality. When you say water quality, the farmers are just shriveling up. Don't put another cost on us. We can't afford to make it as it is now. Instead, what we need to tell the farmers is, here is another profit method for you. This is something that puts dollars in your wallet, and that's what the Republicans want to hear. And Republicans are ready to jump parties if they get somebody that will help them. The Democratic farmers are ready to jump ship to the Republicans if the Republicans will do something to help them make ends meet.
Right.
And so we have that saying. So the farmers, we have to be thinking about how can we get them off of mono markets. Bernie is the first person to talk about getting us off mono markets. So other candidates, if they want to be viable, they need to be talking about this as well. And that's more than just the Democratic Party, Green Party, whoever. They need to be recognizing these issues like the mono markets. We need to be talking about environmental issues that can put kids to work. Everything that we do, let's take the major 7 vectors and say we want it to help the people. Jobs, our economy, jobs. We need health. So what does everything we propose do to increase our ability to get affordable health care? What does it do to not make us sick? How do we get away from the cancer causing stuff? What can we do to make our economy function? What do we do to get the infrastructure going again? And so no longer empty phrases that are never going to get done. We need to be saying specifics. We're going to build roads. We're going to start changing 2-lane roads into 4-lane roads. We're going to start, let's use our War Materials Act, and let's confiscate factories that have shut down and start making American sedans for the Pentagon. If they use a car at the Pentagon, it cannot be foreign made, and the parts for the car must be made in the United States.
Yeah.
Trade. Let's wipe out all trade deals. And trade deals can be good, can be bad. A country cannot exist without trade. We need 25% going out, we need 25% going in, or our money is useless. What do we do for that? Trade parity. We say, if your country is at parity with us, you can come in without a tariff. If you're not, you need a tariff. And manufacturing companies will do anything they can to be on the list of one company, and that's the Pentagon. So say you have to be at parity with the United States. And that would mean that Japan would start not moving assembly plants here, but moving the subcomponent plants here. There are 50 subcomponent plants in Mexico that could be removed or reshored back to the United States in 6 months. 50 major plants. The components were all designed. I actually know somebody that was involved that they could actually be unbolted and taken back to the United States on short notice. Well, wars. Why? Where do we need to be deploying people? And I guess the next thing I'll be doing with Graham will probably be an explanation of the economy or economics of universal healthcare. We suddenly are going to be faced with an insurance industry, health insurance industry, that is going to have a large number of people laid off. These people are going to moan that we've cut off their jobs, we've made them jobless. These are going to be the same people that did not moan when the manufacturing jobs left the United States. These are going to be the same thing when everybody in the manufacturing who lost their job imposed COBRA on them, where we could get health insurance, but at multiple times the cost of what our weekly unemployment checks are going to be. So my proposal is the same thing. They can get their unemployment checks, but they have to pay the government back 5 times the amount. But there are sunk costs in a system. Somebody that has a job just to be paid, it's always cheaper just to give them the money, because we spend 50% above the cost of the money by the chain of money that we have to do to flow the money to them. Those people need to be redirected into new jobs. Mm-hmm. Maybe right. They won't get a job where they can go out and play golf for 3 hours a day. Is that bad a thing to impose on them?
Well, you're talking about everyone employed in health insurance companies, right? I mean, there are plenty of other people that would be out of work that, just answering the phones or whatever. But can't that be transitioned over if we have a national health care? I mean, they can take that over too.
There will be a need for them, some of them, the actual workers, to go into healthcare. The people that won't have work to do are the people that have been getting by on contracts that basically didn't do anything except take their money.
Right.
And anybody that's been on the clean side of the wall in any company knows that there's a lot of people that are there that don't need to be there. Mm-hmm. And that's why when a company like Mitt Romney goes in and buys a company, they fire so many people, and it improves the company. It doesn't hurt as much. So we need to be thinking as well. These displaced people, they need jobs. We need an American jobs system where the people can actually go out and work for a system to start getting our ecology. We need major moonshot-like things just on the ecology. And would you guys mind talking about? I need to be gone for like 5 minutes.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I gotta go cook.
Oh, okay. What are you making?
Just a stir fry.
Oh, okay. Sounds
good. I'll
good.
be right back.
Okay. Well, I will I'll bring up something. Sorry, abrupt change of subject, but anybody hear about Chelsea Manning? I don't know all of the details, but I watched the video today. I guess
she was released.
She was released, but will have to appear back next week on Thursday, and we'll probably just go right back in. But I love this quote, and then later I noticed the Defend Assange campaign retweeted the quote also. But She says, either I go to jail or I turn my back on the principles that I have. The truth is, the government can construct no prison worse than to betray my own conscience and my principles. Thought that was very cool. Yeah. If only more people lived by that, where we would be. So yeah, to be willing, knowing that I think she said she spent 24 days in solitary confinement, something like that. But just trying to get her to testify, and she's refusing. So, that's a hero to me. I think anybody that can
That's pretty badass.
do that. Now I know some people have. Okay, there's Rich. Some people, I have a friend I talked to about this, and she said, well, if she, she was part of the military and she, leaked this information, then that's bad and should be punished. But I like the way you answered that, Brian, is that as a member of, as a veteran, that what the rule is, or law, you're supposed to speak out if you see something illegal, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you are not, there's no such thing as being defended by using, well, I was just following orders. Because if that was the case, then the Nuremberg trials would have been dismissed outright.
Right.
Because that would have been the blanket defense. I was just following orders.
Right.
I'm sorry, you can't do that. Also, there's the Geneva Convention. If you happen to notice a war crime, you cannot remain silent about it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to tell somebody.
Right.
And you have to make sure that action, whatever it was, is investigated.
So I haven't heard anybody but you say this. Maybe I've just missed it, but.
Well, no, it's true, because otherwise you're complicit with the crime.
So why isn't this being brought up? You need to scream. Yeah.
I don't know. It's honestly, it's bizarre.
Start
I don't
tweeting that out at everyone, at Chelsea Manning. No one's, even all the people that are pro whistleblower and are pro, for Manning and Assange and everything. I haven't heard anyone mention this. So
yeah, I don't understand it, because international law says very clearly, if
mm-hmm.
you witness a war crime or you happen to know of a war crime, you mm-hmm. cannot remain silent about it.
Right. Well, Pat Elder.
With that war crime.
I love that both of them are Green Party candidates. Adam Davis and Pat Elder basically said it's a moral thing, and Pat said, right. Well, if this came across my desk, I would.
But it's also legal.
Right.
There's a precedent. You cannot remain silent if you have witnessed a war crime. You can't.
Yeah. So that needs to be brought up. That needs to be repeated. I don't know.
I'm not sure why that isn't.
Start tweeting it a lot, maybe, or something.
That's really important.
Yeah, you should. I don't know. Tweet.
At least that was my understanding. I remember having that hammered into us when I was in boot camp. If you witness a war crime, you can't remain silent about it.
Yeah, well, that needs to be brought up, because that kind of shoots down, my friend, what she was saying about that. Like, I get it. There are people that just think, you can't just reveal our secrets even when we're not doing. Even if you don't agree with it.
You can't use a classification to hide a war crime. That's
right,
also illegal.
Right.
You could hide a crime.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. You can't do that. That's illegal.
So I want to know what happened. Obviously, the people, the army, the ones that shot at the journalists in the collateral murder. I know they've been identified, because you can hear their voices. You know who they are. But I just wonder I looked for briefly and didn't find it right off the bat. But I just wonder what's happened with those guys. If they, I don't know, there was public outcry, or what. I wonder what they would say at this point. Were they just feeling like they were following orders? I don't know. They seem kind of.
Well,
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
basically, the disclosure of 750,000 classified and unclassified or sensitive military and diplomatic documents. That's the essence of the crime, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, as far as I know, the only soldier that's been identified was the one that pulled the kids out of the van, and he was on
Right.
RT. But as far as like the names of the other ones, or if they have spoken out, I haven't heard it, and I haven't been able to find it. I'm sure it's somewhere, but um,
So basically, the biggest ones were the videos of the Baghdad strike and another one in Afghanistan, some airstrike.
Mm-hmm.
22. She was charged with 22 offenses.
Right.
Aiding the enemy. Huh.
Let's see. Here's something that says the commander defends the collateral murder pilots. Where did this go? The internet is acting up. That's interesting. Weird. It won't go to this page. The commander of the U.S. Apache pilots who were caught on the tape firing on civilians in Iraq in the infamous collateral murder video has spoken out about the incident for the first time. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Chris Wallach spoke to the Army Times. And then I'm just reading the little blurb on the search page. It won't let me click on it. Interesting. Maybe it's on WikiLeaks. Oh, here we go. They're probably named on. Yeah. Oh, okay. Ethan McCord was. Well, anyway, I don't know. Take some more digging. I'm sure it's already been released, but I just wonder what. I don't know. Still so much misinformation around the whole thing. That's the problem. But that serves
What's the crime, though?
The crime, what do you mean? That she did or that
she could lose her clearance, sure. She could be discharged, sure, this and that. But what is she being charged with? What is the, I mean, these are...
That she's refusing to testify again right now, that she's refusing to testify about what happened against Assange. So
right.
The indictment against Assange right now is saying that he somehow assisted Manning. I think I have this correct. So Manning had access to the documents, the videos, and everything,
correct,
but wanted to mask that it was her.
Right.
At the time, Bradley wanted to sort of be able to mask that it was him that was accessing the information. And so supposedly there are messages between Manning and Assange where Manning is asking Assange, can you help me crack something or hack into something where I would be able to conceal my identity. So that's really that's what it is. That's the whole charge, is that if Assange had helped.
Adrian Lamo, that's the hacker, I guess, that they were trying to use to leak classified information.
The problem with that narrative is that she had access
anyway
to this information regardless.
Right.
The only thing she was trying to do was mask her identity.
So if they can prove that Assange But I don't think it ever. I don't think it ever happened. They weren't able
No,
to do it.
It didn't ever happen.
So why? I don't know.
Wait,
How
no,
that,
there were things leaked through WikiLeaks.
well,
There's
yes.
There was, but there was no there was talk. In other words, they discussed hacking into the system so that she could mask her identity, but that never actually took place.
Right.
Never
So
happened.
that's why they were able to trace it back to her, that she was
Right.
the one that leaked it.
Because she used her own login.
So there's no way to get at Assange other than, because as a journalist, I've heard Daniel Ellsberg and other journalists say, Glenn Greenwald, a lot of them say, well, of course we encourage a source. Well, hey, get me more information if you can. That's like normal practice as a journalist.
That's completely normal.
So what they have to get him on is that he succeeded in hacking into something so that she could mask her identity, but it never happened. So I don't even understand how this indictment, how it's even happening. I don't know.
Well, here's what they're going to do. I can't remember who discussed this. There was somebody on it was either, maybe it was on, I guess on Lee Campshire. He was talking to somebody who had some legal expertise in this, and said what they're going to do is they're going to bring him back here, and they are going to throw everything that they possibly can at him.
Was it Kiriakou?
They're not going to focus on this very narrow possible indictment. They're going to throw everything they possibly can at him until something finally sticks.
Right, but people are going, oh, well, that's only like maybe a 5-year sentence or something. Big deal. No. I don't know who you're talking about there, but I know that Kiriakou has said this. And I need to start listening to his, I love Fault Lines on Sputnik Radio, but I need to start listening to Loud and Clear. That's Kiriakou's show. But I know that he has said this many times because he went to jail for, I don't remember how long it was now, maybe 24 months or something like that. But that's what happened to him was, they start with one thing and then they start piling on other charges. And he said that court, what the hell do you call it? Whatever, in Northern Virginia, that court and that specific judge, that it's not a fair whatever trial.
Right.
So that's what they want to do, is get him over here, and if they can make it sound like, oh, it's not so bad, then maybe, I think they're hoping that will lessen the public outcry, and that way they can get him over. But
yeah.
But now we have to wait till what, May 30th, I think? Something like that, before they have the next hearing.
Right.
It's terrible. Oh yeah, well, you were gone, John. Did you know that when was that? April, was it like the 14th? We did the candidate panel where they spoke out for Assange. Did you know this, or did you see it?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I just had this idea to ask the candidates that we've spoken to over the past year. I figured, the ones that would probably speak out. And so we did a panel, and it was fantastic. The things they had to say were just amazing in defense of Assange and journalism. So then we had some help editing. This guy, Brian Cheeseman, that was great. And I tweeted it out like crazy to everybody I could think of. The Defend Assange campaign, Assange's mother, lots of independent media. And I think it was like 6 days later, the Defend Assange campaign saw it and retweeted four different clips of the candidates speaking out. It was really cool, and they pulled out like quotes, the best quotes from each one. So that was really, really cool. But it's weird, though, that on Twitter, there are only like 100 and something retweets of it. And it's like, really? How's that possible?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That makes no sense.
Here's this whole, we had Tim Canova, we had Sandra Hicks, Marcia Squire. I don't remember how many it was. What, like 12 something like that. But anyway, that was really exciting because they actually saw it, and that was my whole point. Was I wanted them to people to see that it wasn't just a couple of presidential candidates, kind of far left presidential candidates speaking out, but that there were all these other, grassroots candidates that had some really smart things to say about all of it, about, you know, integrity and journalism and whistleblowers and everything. So that was really cool. But
Nice.
I had hoped it would get more. We'll see. One of the things I was tweeting at all independent media, everybody I could think of, was please have these candidates on. Like you could, this is like several shows. You could have all of them on one by one, and keep it going, talking about the issue. So
yeah.
Anyway, that was pretty cool though.
Sounds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good discussion.
Yeah, but I was so excited when I saw that they picked it up and retweeted it. I was like, yes, success. So yeah.
I have to look it up and watch it. I was underwater,
Oh right. Well, if you go to Twitter and go to the Defend Assange campaign, I think it was like, it had to have been like what, April 20th?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
When was my sister here? No, it was almost 2 weeks later. That's right. It was like the 26th or 27th.
No, I think it was, well, I may be wrong. I thought it was right after I left.
I thought it was too.
Well, we did the panel then, but I'm talking about when they picked it up and retweeted it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when was it then?
Defend Assange campaign retweeted it on.
Oh, the original.
Oh, the original. I think it was April 14th. It's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah. No, I was downloading 2 terabytes of data. I didn't see anything.
Oh, okay. So no, it was April 27th. We were out to dinner, and my sister was here, and I picked up the phone. I was like, oh my God, the Defend Assange campaign retweeted it. It's so cool.
Nice. Yeah, I'll look it up.
And one of Assange's attorneys followed me, which was cool. But I hope to get more candidates. I thought a couple more they weren't able to show up for that panel, and I thought they were gonna do it separately another time. I think there were like 4 or 5 others, and then it kind of fizzled out. So I don't know. I didn't hear back. But I mean, I'm happy to do. I mean, there will be more with this story, so we'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super interested in the issues that each one is carrying. Just like what Mitch was saying, the first thing that came out of his mouth was jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like hearing that so I can stack and rate people to which issues are most important to the most people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. Well, I'm on that note. I'm starting to see a real. I don't know how long it's going to take, but a real possibility of these candidates really going independent. And I mean, if we go through another cycle of the DNC rigging everything and keeping everyone down, I think more people are going to bail out.
Yeah.
So
they should have already bailed out.
Yes, they should have already. I know.
The DNC definitely showed their hand in the way they treated Bernie.
Yep.
Well, we were talking with Elizabeth Beck the other day, and the
DNC fraud lawsuit attorney.
This is unreal. So the lawsuit was dismissed, and here's the judge's reason for why it was dismissed. This is just mind-blowing. The reason this lawsuit was dismissed is because the donors, because these are the plaintiffs, okay, in the lawsuit, are the donors. The donors should have known that the DNC had no legal obligation to be neutral.
even though it said so in their charter that they were.
Was the judge's ruling. That's the
That's
reason.
ridiculous.
And basically that they didn't donate based on the promise of neutrality.
I mean, well, that's the premise of the whole thing, right?
Right.
That it's neutral and they're just going to put up these candidates and let the people decide.
No.
Right? That's almost ridiculous.
Nope. So it's happening again.
It's a club. That's the
it really is.
club rules.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. We need to get rid of the parties and just have all independent candidates pushing their issue.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Cut out the middlemen. Cut out the parties. Cut out the corporate media. Think about all that money. I mean, they're just raking in money left and right.
Everything, all that manipulation. I mean, in this discussion here, I've heard so much manipulation by this middleman party about who's going to be presented for election. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Isn't it?
But you know, really disturbing. What we have now, I don't know if I want to get into it again because I just did last night. I'll just say this. We have independent media now operating as PR for one campaign.
Mm-hmm.
They're not independent then.
No.
Well, no, they're not. They're doing the same damn thing as Rachel Maddow and TYT, and they're headed down that same road.
Yep.
It's not journalism.
True independent journalism.
It's not journalism. And see, this is where I get we've had some great independent media pick up the slack where we haven't had journalism, right, in our regular corporate news, but all of a sudden now they've just dropped doing that, and there's a difference between a journalist and a commentator or your PR for a campaign. I mean, and there are reasons that each one of them are doing it. I think with some of them, they just honestly haven't thought to ask these questions yet. I think there's a lot of just honest, I don't know, didn't think about it, didn't think to ask about the DNC pledge and what it means and what the candidates will do in the event they're not the nominee. But in some cases they do know, and it's self-promotion is what it is.
When you have this one independent commentator who focused almost entirely on the DNC lawsuit and is now basically the mouthpiece for a campaign and isn't asking this candidate any questions regarding the lawsuit, that's a big red flag. That's a huge red flag.
Where do you get your news from?
Yeah.
I mean, where can I get any kind of independent news anymore?
I still think the Real News Network is pretty good. I don't know why Aaron Mate left, but I think they're pretty good. But
Gray Zone's pretty good.
Oh, Gray Zone's awesome. And that's Max Blumenthal and
Aaron Mate.
I guess Aaron Mate, and I forget the other. What's the guy's name?
Yeah, the Gray Zone is very good.
Yes, it is.
I'll have to look it up.
But I think, it's a tricky thing because there are plenty of, my daughter went to a year at Boston University's School of Journalism, and she was there in 2016. And she was in neoliberal hell. I mean, honestly, her professors were because she was speaking out and asking questions that weren't pro-Hillary, she got labeled a Trump supporter, and all of the classes, everything was biased, politically extremely biased, right? And it was the weirdest experience for me, having gone through a journalism program myself, and then before Abby went off to school, I thought, well, watching the news, I thought, well, what in the hell are they teaching at journalism school? Surely they must be teaching that what you see on CNN is not journalism. But no, on the contrary, what she was reporting back to me was that all of her professors were extremely biased, And it was very political, and she left. That's why she's in Scotland. But anyway, so just because you go to Columbia or BU or wherever, um, that those universities are funded by big big corporations now. They have an agenda too, and a lot of those professors, whether they're doing it, I don't know, because they're paid to, or that's just their political leaning. I hate to say this, but I sat there going, oh my God, was Rick Santorum right? Like, about all the liberal bias of the universities. But I think you have to look at the way journalism has been taught in the past, especially the past few years, at some of these highest institutions, and it is absolutely biased towards the neoliberal elite Democrat side. And so, anyway, so I'm not saying that just because you went to, Columbia Journalism School, you're a better journalist, because you can come out and be just as biased. But one of the things that bothers me that I'm seeing, and I applaud everybody that's, in independent media trying to do the right thing and putting all this effort into reporting on things. But if you don't have some of that training, some of the news writing, media ownership and control, learning the difference between PR and reporting, you're just you're a commentator, and you don't have some of that training there. And so that's just really bothering me lately, because I see that, and because we've got such a problem with the regular corporate news, there's nowhere to go. People are turning to YouTube, right? Which is good. We should have that be available. But some of the stuff that's being cranked out now from the YouTube commentators, it's no better. And that is really frightening to me. I mean,
very disturbing.
People can't, it's so bad now that people can't recognize what journalism is. And I forget, somebody wrote an article about this recently. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was in the Gray Zone. But it's just like we're so far removed from the Walter Cronkite days. We have currently now, we don't even recognize what journalism is. We can't tell when we're being, we can't tell the logical fallacies. We can't tell, oh, well, this person didn't cite an original source. It's just simple things like that. Like, you don't just repeat something that came from another place. You have to verify where that came from.
Right.
And the headlines that are like, questions instead, which are purposefully misleading. They don't say, they say, I don't know, whatever. Did Trump meet with Putin? And then everybody's up in arms. That's just one example, but it's misleading headlines. It's repeating things without confirming them. It's bad. It's really bad.
It's interesting that you mentioned the logical fallacy, because I see that in debate, in a game, those are used when somebody's reporting a truth or what they're purporting to be truth, and they're using fallacies to support their argument. I get
right.
It's kind of confusing. I mean, is it, or are you reporting truth?
I mean, I can't name all of them. I bought these.
Yeah.
But
false equivalencies.
Yeah, I mean, I should know the actual name. I think I have a knack for recognizing them, and as I said, I do have journalism training, but to me, it's just
to be part of journalism, right?
Well, no, but it needs to be. But it's just, let's see, what do we have here? The gambler's fallacy. Believing
using
that
a fallacy in journalism, right? That's not proper.
No, it isn't. But it happens all the time, and people aren't recognizing it. I mean, just simple critical thinking. But let's see. Let me find a good one that's like burden of proof. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, burden of proof. Saying that the burden of proof lies not with the person making the claim, but with someone else to disprove. Straw man, that's one we see all the time.
That's very popular.
Yep.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Gosh.
Ad hominem. I think I pretty much experienced that last night, but I'm not going to go into that.
Attacking the person instead of the argument.
Yep, I got that one last night.
Non sequitur, I think, was one. It doesn't follow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's used a lot.
A lot, yeah.
False cause. Yeah, straw man. Misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. Yeah, I remember. I need to do a better job with this now with Zoe and show her these. But during the 2016 primaries, I was just seeing all this, in the debates and stuff, and it was just driving me crazy. So I found this website. This is hang on, what is it? School of Thought.
Trump and his naming, his little pet names that he makes for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I mean, isn't that, what do you call? Well, that's like that's dehumanizing them, right? Demeaning them.
Yeah. Okay, so this is schoolofthought.org. Yeah, and the reason I bought these cards was so we could have them at the table, but we haven't really used them. But anyway, I wrote all this stuff down on a piece of paper, and I made Abby and Zoe at the dinner table study these things because I was determined to make them be able to recognize this stuff, because it makes sense. A kid wouldn't recognize these tactics, but geez, an adult should be able to.
No, they're hard. Try to make them use them against the other in an argument.
Yeah. The fallacy. Presuming that because a claim has been poorly argued or a fallacy has been made, that it is necessarily wrong. Yep. False cause, bandwagon.
But it hurts your argument if you use a fallacy and you get caught.
Yeah.
That's why you want to be able to recognize them.
I don't think most people can recognize this stuff, though, anymore. I don't think they can.
It's not being taught.
No.
It isn't being taught. I didn't take critical thinking until I was in junior college, which is really disturbing. This should be taught I think if they're sixth grade, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Grade, you should be taught these critical thinking skills. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Middle ground, saying that a compromise or middle point between two extremes is the truth. Holly said that vaccinations caused autism in children, but her scientifically well-read friend said that this claim had been debunked and proven false. Their friend offered a compromise that vaccines cause some autism. Interesting. Yeah. And then, I forgot, this has this other part, biases here. Self-serving bias. You believe your failures are due to external factors, yet you're personally responsible for your successes. Yeah. The backfire effect. When your core beliefs are challenged, it can cause you to believe even more strongly. Anyway, it's very groupthink.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Dissent can be uncomfortable, and so often the most confident or first voice will determine group decisions. Yep. Anyway, yeah, you're right. This should be middle school stuff, really.
It really should be. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I've had them sitting over here with my stack of books. They're going to go back on the kitchen table. So when Zoe wants to go on Instagram, I'm going to say, nope. Enough of that. I was at school all day. Do I have to do this now? Did you learn this at school? That's what I said.
Right.
Anyway. What do you think, Mitch?
Sorry, I had to answer a question there.
Oh,
But I did hear your questions about the different logical problems. And
yeah.
I agree. Those should be started to be taught in fourth grade and should be repounded into the minds every year.
Yeah.
Graduate from college.
Mhm.
I don't care what your field is, not just journalism. It hits everybody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are basic things. Like,
Yep.
why do we teach calculus, but kids get out of high school and don't know anything about their credit report? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
That's
like
a good question.
it's the same kind of thing. It's like how to function as a person in society.
I don't know that we should be still on this same schedule of classes that we had when people lived such simple lives.
Mm.
And another thing is, I remember the difficulties I had when my friends went off and got jobs or went off and joined the military. Suddenly had all kinds of cash on hand, and me learning, I was living in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the military is an easy thing, but other than the Grenada event, when I was going to college, it was relatively peaceful.
Mm.
And even the Grenada event, I don't think we had a lot of casualties. So I remember my one friend that I had that was in the Marines, he was sent to Norway, not a really hostile country.
Norway.
And his biggest complaint was that he had to do 6 weeks in Norway. I bet it was cold, but
Yeah.
there could be worse problems. I mean, it's not the same as being sent to Iraq in
Yeah. Really.
1991.
Right.
92.
Yeah. Well, hey John, I will be pushing you. Okay, I shouldn't call it your system. You're so modest. We need to come up with an actual name for it.
It's public domain. The methodology. It's a voting
The
methodology.
methodology. Okay, we got to come up with something snazzier sounding than that. But I will be. Do what?
Like right now. That's
Right
what we-
now. Yeah.
Right
Well,
now.
I am going to be. I'm going to see if I can get a meeting set up with you guys this week.
Fun.
Yeah. So.
I've got a heart assist device I need to finish designing this week. I have excellent graphics systems. I was going to do one for Graham Elwood explaining, using an analogy of a factory, why we need healthcare cost-wise. And if you'd like, I would be willing to animate the flow of data and information.
Awesome. Awesome. That would be great.
I wouldn't want to show online any examples of what I've done in the past. But one of these times when we're offline, ask me and I'll show you some examples of some of the graphics I've done in the past.
Okay. That would be great.
I had one valued at over $16 million.
Wow.
So the company that hardly ever spent money.
Sorry.
Spent $16 million based on a drawing I did. And then the company had some OSHA violations. And usually during an OSHA inspection that they took and gave us $10,000 of fine per minute there in the factory. And they came in. I held a safety meeting for how to walk through our factory safely. And nobody had ever done that, giving them a safety instruction for how they were going to go through the factory. And I'd done this drawing for this proposed new manufacturing line that we put in. And so I was pointing to where things were in our building off of this photorealistic rendering of what our factory looked like. And at the end of the meeting, rather than going out and taking a factory tour, they said, "No, we saw your pictures." It was the first time they'd ever gone through a inspection without having people go out to the manufacturing floor and start ticking off the money.
Nice.
And their average fines were like $6 million per visit. So that's why they valued my drawing really heavily.
Yeah, that's definitely worth it.
But and yeah, I think since it's a flow of information and the exchange of physical objects, I think the same means of graphics presentation might work really well.
Oh yeah, tie it together nicely. The slide to slide thing, it's lost, and yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, people need to see movement all in their head. Or what are you at a party?
No, I agree. The flow of it is what's important, so they can see how information flows through, and the checks and balances. I need to draw out more of the security of it, and that because when I was talking with Kelly and or I was responding on Facebook, I think to John Brakey, I was saying, closing the gap between the voter verifying their ballot and their ballot selections, and closing that gap between them and when it's tallied. Securing that space is what becomes important, and being able to put a check and balance on the hand count itself, on the election officials, so that the voters' verification is carried all the way through, and the voting official, their actions are checked against the original voter's intent, which is encapsulated. So things are coming out as more and more, and as this thing has been developing, as I discuss it with more people, and I think it's in a good spot. I mean, it's definitely doable. I see the technology is easily we can render it easily right now.
Right.
But it is a little bit of a change because we are hand counting in each polling place, and I'm not sure about the logistics of that. If there's enough people, although all they're really doing is feeding it back through the voting machine again and taking a look at it, and then their interpretation of the ballot is compared against the original voters.
I disagree on the people issue there. We have a constitutional mandate for census. We actually have a pretty much implied constitutional mandate for voting.
Yeah.
And I believe if we have money to put the people out there for the census work, we have the money to put the people out there and pay them, not volunteers, but pay them to do whatever's necessary, because voting itself is important and the integrity is important, and paying people rather than using volunteers is the way to do it.
Oh, I agree.
Yep.
And maybe we need to move that voting integrity and get more of the candidates saying it. Since I'm the fat guy that attends most of the early Iowa caucus presidential events that I can, I will try to start throwing that out there to the candidates. Some of the candidates are not getting any opportunities to let you ask questions. Ones that are embarrassing, right now they want as much good light on Biden as possible, so you don't get to ask real questions. And we did not get to answer many questions with Klobuchar either. The one that surprised me was Delaney. Delaney, although I'm against most of his positions, I have absolute admiration for his campaign crew. And the fact that he's honest about his positions, he's not lying about them and then wanting to change them after he wins. So, I think when somebody demonstrates that level of integrity like Delaney is, he should be recognized. Hey, you're not trying to just, give me a platitude. You're being honest with me and what you think you're feeling right. And I think that's just as important as somebody who agrees with me. And I could do nothing but thank him for using his own money for the campaign to get out there. And I noticed that with a couple others as well. The one, Tim Ryan opposed Nancy Pelosi's reappointment to being Speaker of the House. And he is person non grata with a lot of the Democratic Party. But I found his staff fantastic to work with. So, and then I spoke with him as well and some of the, but mostly I found, staff people, if I had to work with again, I would like to see the staff for these candidates that aren't the Biden party, whatever, lockstep. I would like to see some of these candidate people, maybe after the elections, maybe after their candidate drops out. I would like to see them on some shows like this, getting asked questions. Not the candidate, but the candidate staff. And get their input into the election integrity. And if you guys don't mind, I would actually like to approach them and say, after next February, which isn't that far away, would you be willing to appear on some shows about campaign integrity?
Nice.
And hopefully, if we can do a good job. See, I am not a good video editor, but hopefully, if we get something crude out to Graham Elwood, he is a video producer. And maybe he could give us some things that, hey, this is stupid, don't do this. He might be a little bit more tactful than that, but you know what I mean. You might give us something how we can clean it up to make it more presentable. And I think having a video that gets referenced by other people might help get some traction.
It is midnight.
Get some more exposure.
That'd be good. I'd go one by one. I'll talk to you. Oh.
I'll be right back.
Oh, my generator went off. I'm running my generator right now.
Gotta use the restroom real quick. Be right back.
Okay. I was just taking a quick look to see how many. We have 9 people. We need to get our viewership up. And perhaps as the election gets closer, more people will be looking for more outlets for more ideas. So looking around and comparing information, sharing appearances between other people might help. Because I see so many good ideas on here that I think other people are watching, because I hear them kind of getting out a little bit. Maybe not as far and as fast as I want. But let's see. Can Kelly see who's actually watching us?
Yeah.
The webpage of the presentation is election.services. That's got the methodology presentation, if any of the people want to look.
Could you put that link over in the Zoom chat?
Yeah.
Wait, what are you saying? Can I see who's watching this? Is that what you're asking me?
Right. The YouTube holder can see a list of the people that are logged in.
Oh, if they're subscribers, yeah.
Oh, you can't see just who's watching?
I don't think so, unless they're subscribers, it'll tell you.
Oh, maybe that's it.
I guess I just don't pay that much attention to it.
So I put the link in. It's just election.services. And then it'll automatically forward you into the PDF presentation.
So I just think it makes the most sense. Oh, I gotta leave my phone. Hang on.
Here we go. I'm trying to save the link.
Okay.
I can't believe, it's really taken me a whole year to really understand election integrity stuff. It is dry and boring. I mean, if you're not an IT person, it's kind of hard to follow. And the people that talk about it in ways that, like anything, that have had their head down in it for a decade, and they think everybody knows what they're talking about. And anyway,
and I think that might be part of my evil career as a human factors engineer.
Yeah.
That you mentioned that sometimes you have difficulties understanding what John and I are talking about, and so those are issues we need to come around. So if we fog over a listener, that's bad.
Yeah.
So we need to know when we're forgetting that it's not common knowledge.
Right.
Definitely.
And again, so I'm not just a human factors engineer. I work in other fields too. Actually, very little of what I did was human factors. Although when I was, I know that people probably curse me every night when they go to bed. But human factors is election. That's the interaction of people and the machines, and the machines and the people,
right?
And how people work. Normal workflow we call ergonomics, and that's the how do I pick this up and move it to here? How do I move it up to here? How I arrange things to work between things are called logistics. How I make sure what's it. So we have, again, we come back to the 7 fields. We have the logistics that we have to address. We have the human factors that we have to address. We have the methods. We have the people. And what do they need? What their environment is. And as we break down our issues into these areas, we'll start to get an understanding. Now, the reason is 7. Your brain is basically able to store 7 things. This was found out a long time ago by a company called Bell Telephone.
Okay.
That's why telephones originally were 7 numbers.
Ah, okay.
It was the most that an operator could retain, where 95% of the population can retain 7 numbers in their head.
Interesting.
So, in tools that you use to describe situations of like an emergency, how to handle and get things done, the system called Pareto, where you take and you look at the 7 most important issues that you have to cover, and you say, rank them from first to the 7th. Which one needs the most attention? Usually by what's the one that has the biggest cost, or whatever, some attribute. You'll line them by 7, and you put everything else in other, because that's what your brain does. And then you start saying, well, usually 80% of the issue that's number 1 can be solved with 20% of the effort. Boom. So you start knocking them off. Right. And it's a very fast way to solve problems in a factory, because in a factory, if you have problems, you're losing money.
It's interesting you say that, because it made me think of the revised CFAR, Contract for American Renewal, and the point is really to keep it down to, like 6 issues, because that's what people can, well, not only remember, but probably come to agreement on, these main issues. But anyway.
And that's why you usually, in the old meeting style, the old management style, how many people were typically set on a team?
I wouldn't know.
5 to 7.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
After that, it starts getting bogged down. Who am I talking to? Who do I think in my head? And after that, you start getting problems like with Trump. I cannot think of that person's name anymore. He's beyond my 7. So I'm going to call him, butterfly butter, whatever.
Oh, no, that stuff's on purpose. He does that on purpose. It's so terrible, but it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, by giving them some kind of bizarre, outlandish thing that helped extend the limited memory of Bush. And it's working with Trump as well, because he's starting to creep in with the names, Pocahontas, whatever.
Oh, jeez.
But he remembers her name.
Yeah. Low
He
energy,
might forget
Jeb.
Warren, but he doesn't forget Pocahontas.
Jeez. Well, I wanted to get back to the system, we'll call it, whatever the name of the system is. You know, listening to the 2 hours of this hearing last week, that was the one where Brent Turner and Brian Fox came in the chat. Just listening to all this, just hours and hours of all these people talking. It's like we need paper backup, or all I could think was, oh my God, this system that you came up with, it's just so simple. You have the paper ballot linked without, I had to explain this to someone, without identifying the voter, but with a barcode or something, correct? Correct me anywhere if I'm wrong here, if I don't. No, not a barcode, but
it's not really a barcode, but it's a digital encoding of when the voter verifies their selections.
Right, okay, sorry, not barcode, that's the wrong.
Those
are bad.
Is embedded into the image.
Right,
so
okay.
2 layers of security in the image.
But nobody other than the voter will be able to identify that that's their ballot, right? It won't be tied back to the voter?
Yeah.
Right.
No, autonomy was essential.
Name, right, okay, because that's a big deal.
That's why we also stepped away from voter ID, is because that brings the identification of the voter too close to the polling place. They had to compartmentalize. So you would use identification to get registered to vote, just like anywhere. But that's when we started putting the voting voucher in between. Mm-hmm. So your ID to get registered, and then since you're registered, you can get a voting voucher. And the voting voucher is the only way you're getting in the polling place, your e-ticket.
But I got one response from that whole big thread. One response said that it would be too much to ask a voter to not only verify their paper ballot, but to take the time and expect the voter to verify the ballot image matched. That was too much.
That's ridiculous. It would take seconds. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they're side by side. There's a window with a piece of paper under it, and then there's a screen with an exact image.
It would take seconds. Of course, a voter would do that if they're really concerned about,
but see,
the vote being counted.
Right.
I mean, if they're not concerned, they can just trust that I took a good image.
Sure.
And they can look at the tally and say, yeah, these are the people I voted for.
But when I explain it this way, and I'm sorry I said barcode, that was because of other machines that are using barcodes, and it was stuck in my head. Anyway, a different identifier. But, when I explain it this way, like, well, then you have the paper ballot, and that's there, but you've got the ballot images, and then those could be released to the public, so anybody could count them. Any different organization could do their own count. Voila!
I don't even supply the tools.
It's fixed. It's done. We can get rid of all this crap. And then I thought to myself, what will all these people do with their time then, if we fix that?
So they'll be properly represented in their government because the absolute foundation of democracy has been fixed.
Right. But I mean, this hearing and all these people, it's just, why? This is so obvious and simple.
But they're just grandstanding. I mean, but getting people to talk about it, the whole point of making the presentation was getting the people to talk so that the things would come out, The paper ballot, when I first started, it was technology, I thought, technology can do it. We can absolutely, but it became so obvious that the paper ballot was essential to the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
That just wrap that paper ballot in technology, and then closing the gap, making sure that when the voter, because if the voter validates their ballot and then they hand it to somebody else, what good is that? You're trusting somebody else.
Yeah, the trusted
You want them to
insider.
validate their ballot and the selections and the automated interpretation of that ballot. And then we want that to be the gold standard, that when the election official does the accounting of the paper ballot, it comes all the way back to the voter verified. The image is still on the server in the polling place.
Well, the next thing is
just official. Oops. Oh,
No, I was just saying the next thing is just to figure out how to get this. How do you get this system implemented? I mean, it's a huge. It seems like a huge hurdle.
no, we could do
Shouldn't
it
be.
very rapidly. I mean, it's not complicated.
I know
What
you
we
said
do
like,
is crowdsource 2 demo machines and a server.
yeah. I think we need to get on that seriously, like soon. And then I think having the candidates, having the independent candidate coalition behind the system that makes sense and cuts through all of the bullshit that all of the other stuff just goes on and on for eternity about. This just cuts through all of it and fixes the problem. I think how do we get started on that? What could we do to help? Like, do you need to start a GoFundMe? What do we need to do to get?
Well, it was by getting people talking. If we can get a consensus at the ground level, then yeah, the next thing would be to crowdsource just the first demo so that we can carry this thing in and demo. It's going to sell it faster than a demonstration.
I have an idea, but I'll talk about it offline.
Okay, and I saw Mitch. Yeah.
Actually, do you guys care if I stop the live stream? Because I probably don't need to stay up too much longer. And I'll tell you off the air. Yeah. Sorry, people. I have a private position and a public position I have to uphold here.